Hello folks, RC62 here. Liam Scott 2005 posed the following question to us motor vloggers. He asked what was our first bike and what were the highs and lows about the bike. And I think I've talked about it a little bit on some of my much earlier videos, but my very first motorized two-wheeled vehicle was a Sears mini bike. And Liam asked if if we had any pictures of our first bike, if we would post pictures, and I do not have any pictures of that bike. But I did find online a picture of a bike that is extremely similar. In fact, I think it's the same model, but it has a different color engine. It had a white engine, and obviously it's a very old bike, almost 40 years old, so it's pretty well rusted up. But the bike I had was a 1971 or 1972 Sears mini bike with a 3.5 horsepower Tecumseh lawnmower engine. I got that little motor scooter, or mini bike as it were, back in 1972 for Christmas. I think my dad paid $200 for it, and I was 10 years old at the time, and I swear that was those are some of the best childhood memories that I really have of growing up. Is riding that little mini bike. And at the time we lived in Alabama, in Tuscaloosa. That is essentially my hometown. It's where I was born. Most of my family is from there. On the weekends, we'd go down to my paternal grandparents' house, my dad's mom and dad, and they lived out in the country, and they lived in a double-wide trailer that right at the intersection of a paved road and a couple of unpaved roads. And the unpaved roads were of this red clay type material. And my dad would take me down there on the weekends, and while he's visited my grandparents, I would ride my mini bike, literally all over the place. I would go for miles and miles down those roads. Yeah, anyway, but it was the most fun I ever had. I mean, I'd put my friends on the back and we'd go riding around the neighborhood on the thing, and there were some areas where the kids would jump their bicycles off these little hills, and I'd take that damn mini bike and jump the jumps with it. I mean, I remember one time coming off of the top of the hill was probably about 5 foot higher than the bottom of the hill, with a pretty steep slope. And I came off the top of that thing and literally got airborne from near the very top all the way to near the very bottom. Scared the crap out of myself, but that little mini bike did it. I mean, it was a blast. So anyway, to answer Liam's questions about what were the highs and the lows, or what were the good and bad things about the bike, I only have good memories of that bike. It was, like I said, the most fun I ever had in my life. It's why I enjoy riding my little scooter now. It's kind of that same kind of thing. It doesn't go very fast. I think that little Sears mini bike maybe did 20-25 tops. Of course, at my weight now of 220 pounds, I doubt that it would get up to 15 miles an hour with me sitting on one of those things, but it was a blast when I was a kid. But to answer the question, no, there were really no negatives at all about it that I can recall. I mean, it was always very reliable. Hardly had any problems with it at all. Had to replace the centrifugal clutch a couple of times when it wore out. I think the seat broke when because I pretty much abused that thing. The seat broke. It snapped in half, and as I recall, my grandfather put a piece of plywood under it and screwed the original seat to the plywood, and my grandmother made me a denim cover to go over the seat because the vinyl eventually split open. But yeah, I mean, it was great. I guess if there was something negative that I wanted to say about that, it would have to be that the way you shut that engine off is there was a little piece of, or a little strip of metal that attached to the motor, and it had like a little spike on it, and it looped up over the top of the spark plug. And what you had to do is, to kill the engine, you pressed that piece of metal down so that the little spike pierced the rubber boot on the spark plug and it shorted it out. And that's how you kill the engine. Once in a while, and it didn't happen often, but once in a while, if you didn't quite hit it right, it would zap the shit out of you. But yeah. Anyway, it had to have been some of the greatest times in my life. It really was. I never really got badly hurt on that bike. I did wipe out a few times, but it was so small, so low to the ground, so lightweight. I don't think it weighed 60 pounds. I didn't get hurt on it really. And anyway, I hope that answers Liam's question about what my first bike was. Of course, that's kind of cool. I like that. Yeah, I gave her the thumbs up and she just looked at me like I'm some kind of dumbass. Yeah, I guess I am. Alright, whatever.